Hi guys, Fabio Palvelli here with the D2 Talks. Today on the show we have the guys from Leadson Viz, an office based in Bucharest, Romania. I've had the chance to meet the guys from Leadson a few months back when I went to Bucharest to talk about the business side of Archiviz at the launch event for the Great Talks About Photorealism book that Bogdan Sasu published. These guys are very active in the community in Romania. They create all the time meetups and small events. They're very nice guys, and maybe if you're from Romania, you might find something inspiring in this talk. As always, if you like the video, hit the like button, share it with your friends to get the conversation going, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay, so I have Laurentiu and Claudia of Leadson Viz. Guys, thanks a lot for accepting the invitation and taking the time to do the show with me. I'm very pleased to have you here. We started, Laurentiu and I, to talk about many things a few years back, you remember?
Yeah.
And then I finally got the honor to meet you guys last winter, actually, in Romania. We came for the book launch. You put together with Bogdan, the meetup. Great job. I really like when people get together to talk about architectural visualization. And, you know, on behalf of the Romanian community, I'm very happy that you decided to do that, because this is how you start positive change, right?
Sure. Yeah, we actually had another meetup 2 weeks ago in Cluj.
Yeah.
So
it's going.
things are growing. So
Cluj seems the place to be for Archiviz at the moment, right?
right. There are like 10 studios now. I think there are like 3-4 large ones and a couple freelancers more. Yeah. So things are growing in Cluj. So
I really like what it's happening at the moment in Romania, because there are a lot of people that are very talented that are trying to really push the current status quo. You know, they're trying to change it and they're trying to improve things, and you know, it makes me happy because finally people are being conscious about the work that they're doing and about the value that they're bringing to the people that they work with. But anyway, guys, I want to start out this interview by asking you how you guys got started.
well,
in university we started, we were architecture students at some point. And I guess that's the first time we were introduced to several softwares, like the basic ones that we mainly use in architecture. And we got like the very, very primitive ABC for them. And then we started exploring them individually as a matter of trying to express our concepts in our projects in a better way.
yeah, and from there you start having freelance projects. Actually in school you help other students maybe or maybe smaller jobs, and from there you kind of build relationships. And
yeah, it's more individual study. For instance, Laurentiu was already very good with his softwares and with his 3D skills, as opposed to me. When we ended university, now he's my Jedi master, teaching me a lot.
And
Yes.
let me ask you, how did you start to get your first clients? This is a question that, you know, a lot of people always ask. How do you get the ball rolling?
simple. Somebody recommended us. They do renderings and they're cool, and go work with them.
Okay, but who recommended you?
Friends.
I guess
colleagues.
it's a bit of a network you gotta do at first, because you know that paradigma where you don't have a portfolio and you don't have experience, but they don't hire you because you don't have experience. You know, you never know where to break the circle. So we were lucky, and he put his images out there for a while. He started off with a blog.
Yeah, I did.
And
Actually, I think that was important too, because I got an advice about 12, 11 years ago to do a blog on assistant at school at uni. Hey, you have cool renderings, maybe start off something and people see you out there. And it grew actually. It was like largest blog on interior architecture. And actually people,
this was the guy. So this was the guy that started off here.
Kind of.
Okay, now we know.
It had about 1,000 visitors in the first few years, so it was a big deal at that time. And all the students in interior architecture school or architecture school were checking my blog and to see the works and have a heads up about the works they're gonna do right. They really did. They just downloaded the images and they knew what the project is gonna be. And
that's amazing. You know, it's very similar to my own starts. I also started with a blog. I don't know if you can remember it, 3D Dreaming.
Yeah.
And that blog actually went viral. Like everybody knew it. You know, people would send us pictures from California that they were using the stuff that we were publishing there to make their own projects. So, you know, the power of social media really is there, right? But people have to put it out.
A few years ago, I had an image maybe or something at your blog too. So.
Yeah. I remember publishing it, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, let me ask you a little bit about entrepreneurship. You know, artists like us and designers like us, they like to be inspired by other entrepreneurial stories. Was there ever a story that you heard that inspired you and that pushed you to take the path that you took?
I guess, honestly, we were chatting about this at some point. I think for most of us growing up in Romania, we're the first generation post-communist Romania. So we were really encouraged by our parents to go and not follow the classical 9-to-5 path and explore our options and our skills and abilities. So I guess that for us, any story where someone built up a business from scratch is a success story and it's inspirational. But I don't know, I can't think of anyone in particular right now.
We can use our personal, or like families. So it gets that simple.
I love that because I think this is the first time that somebody says that.
Well, for example, our parents, they had a job at the same place for 30 years or something, and maybe they did some freelance besides work, and we know, like,
also there was not much encouragement in art.
Yes.
In a communist Romania, not that I know.
And not enough encouragement in doing a business. Like when in the 90s, when people were opening LTDs or what they're called, they had no experience not enough people were doing that, and they didn't want for us to go maybe when you get 60 years old and get a pension or that kind of stuff. Maybe, that's what I'm getting for a lifetime of work. So maybe you go and do better and maybe have a better future. So
it's inspiring. For me, it's inspiring that I saw my own parents quitting 9-to-5 jobs and, taking the leap of faith and opening their own business, doing the same things they were doing before, only for themselves. And I guess that's inspiring enough for me.
I think, what you guys just said, it's beautiful. And I think that, when I talk often to people from America, they never realized that for a very long time, the majority of Europe was under communist siege. And, even if we did not have communism, but we still had like a very heavy political influence, even in countries like, you know, Italy, Spain, France. And so a lot of us grew up with this mindset of having a job, because the job was something that was secure. It was something that, you know, nowadays I feel like society it's pushing us towards more the economies of the American dream, where you have to work hard and have your own business. But at the same time, they're removing a couple of things from the context of what it's like to start your own business, which is, you know, like starting, for instance, working as a freelance artist and then finding yourself to have to fight against big companies that, you know, don't want to pay you. And so, you know, like, this is great that people are starting their own business, but you also need the knowledge, you know, to start your own business. You cannot simply do it and then find yourself without the weapons to fight the big bad clients, if you like.
It's true, and we both of us had at some point for longer or shorter periods of times regular jobs in other architecture companies, and we did learn a lot, because being around people with more experience than you, and you know, you get to learn things from someone else. So I guess that's important indeed, and we're actually trying to develop ourselves and make a larger working team.
Well, for me it was a little different, because I had a job in uni, fourth year, I think, maybe 2012 something, and after that I was always my own boss, and it was never actually good. It's not like I wanted that. For the beginning, okay, it's fine, it's going well, it's growing, but at some point I understood that you will learn more when you're in a team where you have 4, 5, 10 people around you, share knowledge, not just chatting on Facebook or with a friend who look what I discovered today or something. But here in Romania, it wasn't like the place to develop a lot in ArchViz. There weren't so many places. Like when I had my first job, I used my own computer to render, not the company computer. And yeah, I learned from that point.
Yeah, well, it's Laur indeed, he was more focused as opposed to me on what he wants to do. And that's something I always admired about him, because he was really good at visualization, and he learned and learned and learned, and he's still doing that all the time. He's always exploring what came out, what software, what plugin, all these things.
Well, it also was a bit different, because in an ArchViz or rendering project, CGI, you get the payment after 1 week, 3 weeks, maybe 1 month. In an architecture project or interior design, you get after 6 months, 1 year, or you work for that 2-3 years. So sometimes I prefer to do the CGI than the project itself.
So it was for practical reasons.
That too. No, it's important for people to know that, because it's part of the journey. So
I think it's very important, and I think it's also very valuable, the fact that you're sharing this with me, that you had to keep, Claudia had to keep a job whilst starting up the company, because, like, that's how a company survives, on money. And so if you have money coming in, you have the mental focus to give to your business. On the other end, I've been talking to Laurentiu extensively over these years, and I know that he's got the determination and the focus of a person that wants to make it. So, it's no surprise that we are now telling your story, guys. So, for that, congratulations.
Thank you. It's actually interesting, because you got the right idea. At the beginning in 2014, it was called Leadson Architects. That didn't go to someplace.
We tried to have a mix.
I actually closed that website because it was a mix and nobody understood that we're doing that and so on. Part of the team still had other jobs because it wasn't enough work. And in 2017, I decided, hey, I have to go professionally. We can
in a defined shape and form.
Yeah. So CGI, invest and be render.
Keep on rendering until the last bucket.
Keep on rendering.
Guys, let's talk a little bit about productivity. Do you guys have any rituals that you like to respect when it comes to get work done? Myself, for instance, I like to make little notes and then I tick them off as I complete my tasks so that I feel like, oh wow, I'm making progress. What about you?
Well, always do a lot of research and documentation and maybe do some sketches and even paint something.
Yeah, a lot of sketches, a lot of paper sketch.
And you communicate with sketches also with your clients?
When they
No,
when it's possible, sure. When they understand the sketch or what's going to be the plan, yeah, sure.
And also when they're face to face, because it's easier to actually draft a sketch as opposed to telling a story about that will be there, that will be there. You know?
They don't understand many times. And sometimes you can impress the client if you do a very nice, crazy sketch with your pencil and maybe draw that out. What is going to be the image and the concept. And
I like that. Okay, let me ask you, to date, what is the you wish that you had known when starting out?
Oh, wow. Should I start?
Yeah.
Make a list.
No,
Actually,
I guess for us, because we've been through both architecture work and 3D and Viz, I think it's about setting the boundaries, the limits, the parameters of the contract. I mean, we modified this draft or contract draft a lot of times.
And finally work with a lawyer.
And finally work with a lawyer, yes.
And
yes.
it was so cheap to do the contract, so I had no idea it was that expensive.
That's a good advice. Always invest in this.
Invest in contracts, in lawyers and accountants and business managers.
It's because of the fact that there's a certain number of redos of a work. There's even people who don't get the limit of don't call me at 10 p.m. because I have a personal life, or every Saturday and Sunday. And I don't know, I learned that if you're trying to be nice and reach out a hand and say, okay, I'll answer you Saturday, don't worry, I'll make an effort and I'll have it done by tomorrow. But people don't take it like that. They don't see what's behind the call and the request. So we're still being nice, but we're setting boundaries.
We're nice. We're not still.
And also it's important that we learn to have the courage, as opposed to when we were kids, that it's okay to charge for your work. And what you consider that's enough, that's a very fair amount, no matter what you consider fair is. Yeah, I know I always felt like it's too much. Maybe they won't want to. Maybe they don't think my work is good enough. But the problem was that it got to a point where we were sure about our work. And
now you explain to people, look, I invested a lot.
Take it or leave it.
It's for real, and we can't do that anymore, so...
Yeah, I guess to a certain point you know how much money you need to run a business, and it's like, personally I don't really know a lot of people that got rich, but like real rich doing this job. It's always people that are very passionate and that invest more than they actually get out of it that do this job. So to a certain extent, the fact that sometimes we talk about pricing and we use the word fair or honest. There isn't much to be fair or honest here. It's only a question of like fitting the numbers. If I'm charging too little for an image, if the client doesn't like it, then I'm raising my prices. Without the money, there cannot be no Leadson Viz, right? It's what it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, something I understood like recently, actually it's from sport. And if you know tennis, and we have a very great player, Halep, and about a year or 2 years ago, the coach, Cahill, sent a present video online for Halep. And it was something about forget about the dogmas, forget about the predefined ideas, about what others expect you to do, just maybe follow your path and do your own game maybe. Because I feel sometimes, maybe for the past months, I started to realize that we're all in like a washing machine, like a cycle. Everyone would kind of forget about the goal, or maybe I don't know how to put it out better, but
forget your end game.
Your own end game.
Oh yeah.
Your own. Like you see something a company does and you like it, and maybe you try to achieve it too, but maybe that's not the same for you. And when I did the business plan for Leadson Viz 3 years ago, I was wrong too for some parts of the business plan. Then I realized, hey, there's Netflix. Hey, there's companies in VFX, people from movie business starting writing to us from LA at some point. And hey,
there's more to this.
There's more to this. And I never thought about that 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I was like, hey.
I think, very often what happens is that we are victim of our own mental constrictions, We say, I studied architecture, this is what I'm good at, or this is what my possibilities are. And also, this is the downside of looking at the archivist community, is that we look at it in terms of archivists and that's it. Instead, if we try to look at it in a creative way, we realize that there are no limits, that you can do whatever you set your mind to. Then, of course, from the business standpoint, you need to do things that make sense. You need to specialize yourself. But this is something else, when you start looking beyond whatever it is that you're doing, then possibilities start to open up. Let's just go back for a second. What is with Romania and tennis? You guys have some of the best players on the planet.
Just one.
No, you forgot. What was his name? Nasty.
Nastasia.
Yeah.
Was years ago.
Yes, I know. I still remember that. My dad used to talk about him all the time.
Our parents too. So.
There's actually several rising stars in tennis. Besides, Simona Halep, who's already there.
Yeah. She's great.
She almost took the Australian Open this time, so really impressive.
Yeah. I think it's a matter.
Can you imagine to have the mindset to actually win a Grand Slam always?
No, I can't.
I personally can't, but I can imagine what it is.
Actually, that's something I wanted to say earlier. You starting having the maturity in certain areas like arts, sport, and that's something to add on previous question. That's something I wish to have at the beginning, maturity.
Yeah.
Like in creative process, now I don't like everything. I just like particular things.
I feel the same as well, you know, sometimes. Like the thing that you just said, that I wish I could go back in time and be a little bit more mature about the way I was looking at everything back then, you know, because at the end of the day, maturity is also a trait that, you know, people think to have, but then later on they realize that they did not have.
Yeah, so
let me ask you, let's stay on the same track. Let me ask you, what is something that you failed at during your professional artistic path, but then that turned out to be a great life lesson?
Oh,
Failed.
We never failed.
In my professional life. Well, now, honestly, I didn't think about this. I think it's the moment I thought that it's okay to take a bad job just because I really needed it. And it actually involved going back to my hometown, which I love. That wasn't the problem. And I figured I would explore that. It's just the place I ended up working with was, to put it mildly, not compatible to anything I was and I wanted. I guess that was a good lesson, that I'd rather, I don't know, I think I would rather take a break.
well, you can also have in business, in management, like, for example, I did some errors too, and those things cost money. And if you don't pay attention and give your all trust to, maybe you hire someone like an accountant or that kind of.
It's what we were talking earlier with the contract and the lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lesson too.
I think, you know, in some cases, the reason why this happens is because when we think of like a lawyer or an accountant, we associate that with a very big bill.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, sometimes to have a little bit of help, it's a couple of €100, you know, but that money, it's going to last the entire life of your company.
Actually, we were busy. It's a story that I'm not going to tell, but we were busy. I didn't pay attention to something, and that cost a lot to fix it. So I trusted the person to do the job. Being the owner or whatever you are associated to the company, no matter who you hire, you still
need to check. Yeah.
Need to check, but also
you're responsible.
You're responsible for that. No matter what, no matter who you hire, you're still responsible. So I had that lesson, and it's better to have that lesson earlier than later, because depending the size of your company,
the damage is bigger.
Yeah. So it's also important how you deal with your cash flow, how you deal with your profits. Keep them. Keep them.
Don't spend them. Don't get yourself an expensive car.
Maybe keep them for 2-3 years to have a safe plan. And yeah, that will help you. That's a business advice. So
I guess
it sounds general, but it's so true. You have no idea.
It's not general at all, especially when it comes to the archivist industry. I think that a lot of young people and mainly small businesses, they still don't understand clearly what profit means, you know? They look at profit as the money that they earn. They don't look at profit as what profit should be. I'm actually planning to make some videos on the topic because, you know, I go and speak at many conferences and I still see a lot of people that have no idea. But, you know, like this might sound already very advanced. There are artists that don't know what VAT is and how VAT works, you know, so.
Well, it's not that you want to do those errors, but you don't find the information sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I wish there was a website that would list every single thing you have to do and check that checklist. And there's not such thing in Romania, for example.
I don't think I've ever seen something like this anywhere, actually. There are a couple of programs that you can do online which are paid for. But I don't know, they're very expensive. I will leave it to that. But anyway, let me ask you one more question. Let's talk about, you mentioned in the beginning that you guys are very nice with your clients, which I think it's a very cool thing. However, there must be some times where you have to say no to them, right? And eventually no is a powerful tool if you know how to use it. Do you guys use it? Do you feel like it's necessary sometimes to have to say no? How do you do that?
Well, no, I guess this is part of the learning process that we were talking about earlier, that no matter how attractive a project might sound at some point, now we have the capacity to see what type of client we're dealing with, what kind of fee we get for the project, if it's worth the time or the involvement, or if it's worth prioritizing over other projects. So yes, we get to say no in our nice, polite way.
Well, 2019 it's been
full of no, yeah.
no's, but more than ever. But
I guess in the end it's because you gotta prioritize what you want to achieve for that year. And last year, I guess there was no room for little side projects. And no time and no, I don't know.
Yeah, you make a schedule. You have some old clients, new clients. For example, you can say no to a client you work for a long time, and maybe that's the most difficult. Mm-hmm. For example, story, what they wanted to do. Oh yeah, Zaha did and unbuilt stuff by famous architects that were under credit and no right to how to say you can't access it, like they're not available. Yeah, weren't available for public, something like that. And the people want to do maybe it was like copyright infringement, something like that. So you couldn't do the project, and you have to explain and then to understand.
So let me get this straight. There was a time where Zaha did ask you to make a project, and no.
Somebody else wanted to do a project similar or by Zaha did, and maybe put it in another context or something like that.
Okay.
And I said, hey, you can't do that. It's maybe one of the best companies in the world, and
copycat.
Copyright infringement and that kind of stuff, and no.
Okay, so in that case you had to educate the client in a way, or...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think nowadays you just go and say, no, thank you, bye, hang up the phone. But back then he took his time to explain why it's wrong.
Well, always I can explain why it's wrong.
I know, but it just sometimes don't...
And do you find that if you try and explain your client why you're saying no, that it helps the conversation, or do the clients tend to reject your rejection?
Well, they understand, but they still want it. So maybe they go to somebody else. So that's simple.
No, in the matter of educating your clients, no, I think most of the time it doesn't work. Explaining to them. Maybe after they hit a couple no's, they'll start realizing.
Yeah, after a couple of no's.
There's a reason for that.
Okay, so they go around and they get rejected multiple times, and then they come back to you and say, okay, we get it now.
That happened.
I think that, sometimes clients, they simply think that either we don't want to do the job or I don't know. It would be nice to have a thorough understanding of how clients think. I started a couple of years ago to read about game theory. Have you ever heard game theory? And how people make decisions and all that. And there is a whole, there are books written on the way people make decisions and, decide for their own things. And then you apply these things to real world situations and you realize that it's just a mess. It's so difficult to think about what people are thinking, and dealing with clients is difficult. That's the bottom line.
I think that works for every domain, because clients go to a professional because they want, they need their expertise. So they don't know all the little layers of how to get there.
Let me ask you guys, any books that have influenced you and that you would recommend to read for anyone that works as a creative?
I think all books related to art, paintings, photography, albums, I think everything that has to do with the art world can be a source of inspiration. And if not, I don't know.
Well, I discovered recently that the classes at uni were so important. Every single one of them, actually. And maybe dig deep into computer folders, reread them, because you have no idea. For example, I recently read on a website about, let's say, artist theories, sublime, rhythm, that kind of stuff, architecture stuff. And we're like, I don't see people using those techniques in renders. Not enough. Not just photography, but okay, you design or represent a project, like architecture project, and you learn that stuff in order to explain to the end client what it's going to be. And you learn about perspective and that stuff. But then you, as an art viz artist, you forget. Yeah, people forget. It's true, and it's good we have this talk. We have to use more what we learned in uni, because you see those renders, commercial renders, a lot. And of course, clients tell you, go in that angle. I don't care about rhythm and perspective and claroscuro and no.
Go back to the basics.
Some of them, appreciate that, but it doesn't do well for the end client who actually builds the stuff or uses it, whatever is going to be the campaign or something. But we kind of have to be a little more technical and still creative and still artistic, because actually people were talking about credit revolution, and I realized that we don't have enough critics in art viz. Okay, there are competitions, there are nominees for like City Architect or Ronald Beckerman Image of the Week. Yeah, they are just those people and not enough. We need more art, like in art.
Art critics.
Art critics. So if more people come along and analyze our stuff, which now we analyze ourselves, and the boards that are done for the competitions. We also need, like it's happening in architecture, or maybe it isn't, I don't know yet, maybe.
No.
So you need more critique for the domain, for the CGI, for the VFX, in order to grow and people appreciate, in order to that journalists notice, hey, it's a certain different level of your work and that stuff. And
I guess it can be people from other domains that
like in art painting.
Yeah.
So
yes, of course we need our industry needs to be recognized also in the artistic effort, I would put it probably, because the problem is that we basically are a service industry, but there are a lot of people that are putting a lot of creative energy into it. But the final product is always the architecture, and so people tend to disregard everything that we do because they focus on the build. But obviously, there is an effort from our side to kind of push the conversation about the impact that the building will do, and we'll try to communicate it with the images. Some people simply ignore the fact that we exist. I think as an industry we have got used to this in a way, but obviously, it could be possible that at a certain point people are going to start paying attention and they're going to say, okay, you know what, there are people that are actually working really hard to push the conversation as on what is our built environment going to look like, with the work that we do. Anyway, it's maybe a little bit of a utopic hope.
Well, from what I understand is like there are lots of great works out there, but not, there are the top companies, of course, but not enough like a critic mass of people in order to make that change. Something like that. So like journalists or whatever media or people who should give credits to your work, see that not just the top companies do the great work or certain freelancers, but also the small studios and everybody. So that was...
Like there's no higher authority in the industry that can decide the value of the works, right? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think
maybe not higher authority, but
since what we were talking about earlier was that everything doesn't just limit to architecture. There's movies, there's sets, there's all this kind of applications of
so it's like Archviz should apply for Emmys or Oscars, a nominee, a section for that stuff in order to be evaluated. Sure, there are some companies that won actually Emmys and like
for image,
for
movies,
yeah.
That's true.
So since we're talking about this, let me ask you, do you think that the community as it is right now, the archivist community, does it look healthy to you? Are there things that could be improved in order to raise the value of our job? You think that we could do something starting from within the community? I mean, you've been very involved with the Romanian community. Are there things that you think could be done in order to raise the perception of our job?
Yeah, definitely. That's the answer. Yes. I think if we take our Romanian community, that's I guess it's just getting in a better place. It's just getting shaped. I think referring to Romania, people should be more cooperate into sharing and discussing their techniques, questions, problems they meet without the fear that the other person is gonna maybe steal their work. Because I think in this lovely domain we work in, it's about your own view on something, and that's not something someone can take away from you. Even if you found a little trick to do in the software, eventually someone else will find it too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also about the change. Like, you need a critical mass of people to make a change. And we learned that like 3-4 years ago, and in this like personal or national level. Let's say something bad happened in the government with some law or political stuff. And we didn't understand till then that something really bad or something really great needs to happen in order for a critical mass to gather itself and be there and
be a
community and make it to happen, that change. So people gather at a mass concert. Yeah, people gather at a large 3,000 people protest. So in order to
we need to
achieve something,
make it bigger, huh?
Yeah, so it needed to be explained and to find a great reason, maybe, so that people will come together even more. I don't have the answer for that yet. I'm still thinking what needs to happen for 200 studios come together in one afternoon, not because it's a conference. Something it's about to happen, or you want to make a change for a subject. You want to change the legislation, maybe. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
We
example, there were.
Sorry.
Sure.
No. I mean, we have seen every time that people got together that eventually a dialogue started to happen. Some people understood that this was a good thing. Some other people preferred believing that this was not a good thing. At the end of the day, it also comes down to the single people. I think that an intellectual mind which is open and understands in the power of humanity or trusts the power of humanity tend to come together and to work together. Those who are short-sighted, they tend to close themselves in and do their own thing despite of what everybody else is saying. Now, is that wrong? Is that correct? Who can tell? I appreciate personally people that try to cooperate. It's, to me, it's more beautiful. You have people that come together, they share their work, and you see that, they are usually the ones that tend to win more prizes, that tend to get invited to speak at conferences, that tend to, be published. And those that close behind their doors and don't want to talk to anybody, they tend to get isolated. And then all of a sudden they just disappear and you don't see anything anymore from them, But then again, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Guys, do you ever think about the idea of purpose? And more in the specific, do you ever think about what is your purpose?
Of course. Leave something behind, contribute, create a base.
Change the world.
Yeah.
With bits that we can do, yes.
Create something on your own.
I guess this again goes back to the fact that we chose, when we started our careers, we started with the idea that we're gonna do architecture, and architecture in our dreamy minds was gonna change the face of Romania at that point, or our
even more.
Yeah. Then it developed, of course. I guess we also have a lot to work with here if we would have the resources, or people would have the resources.
Oh, make a change not just in work but socially too.
Yes.
Like
I think they're connected. I think
in
architecture is connected to your daily life in every aspect. Because it's
also in architecture it could solve social problems, and
yeah, it's true. And there are a lot of great projects that I've noticed that are coming up, and I'm particularly happy that they happen here in Bucharest, because I know that for Western Europe it's probably something that has been done for a while, but I like that it's coming here, and it's on the initiative of Romanian kids in schools, actually. Yeah.
Oh.
So we'll change what we can.
Well, also about a year or 2 years ago, something. Again, I did a retrospective or something.
Quick analysis.
Quick analysis, yeah. And I actually wondered myself, okay, I'm doing CGI, what's my contribution? And that's why I went from the point of, hey, this is commercial, a lot of commercial. If I want to contribute, I have to be more creative, more artistic, maybe put a lot of more concept in the work, and maybe eventually I will do something good enough to maybe remember or contribute as a base for somebody else, if it's not going to be me. So that too.
Let me ask you guys, what does success looks like to you?
Being happy. Yeah, being happy.
On a personal level? Or career-wise?
It's your answer.
Well, in the light of many recent events, my opinion is that if you have a good physical and mental health, you have the tools to be happy.
And a clear mind.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying, helping in both.
Yeah, actually I understood that you do stuff, you do the work, but that it's not enough.
It's a balance. It's always a balance between time for yourself, between being a social person or not, I don't know, depending on preferences, between work, between learning, because between hobbies. But for me, everything went back so narrow to just being very, very healthy, and then I guess then you have the tools to go wherever.
Well, actually, I can say it, right?
Sure.
Studying sports stuff.
Sports? Laura is a lot into sports.
I like
that. For about this month let me check. I burned like 30,000 calories.
Laura is getting into a new level of motivation.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So that's happiness. That's success, because you manage to balance work and everything else. So
I think happiness plays a huge deal on this whole thing of success, because I don't know, I always had the feeling that people were just working because They wanted to make money, and, you know, their success was going to be to see, you know, like having a big company. But then what do? Like, you work, and if you don't get to that point, you're going to be miserable your entire life. You know, probably it's the idea of getting to a certain place that kind of like simulates us being happy. When actually, if you remove the simulation and you just try and focus on being happy, then you're already halfway there, right? Because it's like you can work as hard as you want, but maybe you'll never get to whatever it is that you thought that you had to be in order for you to be successful, right? And I think that nowadays we are bombarded with too many messages that push us to have expectations that sometimes are a little bit too unrealistic. Sometimes even when I make my videos, I ask myself, is the message that I'm giving to people realistic enough, or am I trying to make people shoot for the star? Because then that also makes people depressed, right? Because it's like, Fabio told me that I should be a millionaire. And I'm like, I never use the word millionaire specifically for that reason. Because it's difficult, right? And also, like, you give $1 million to certain people, probably they're gonna spend it in one day, and then after one day they're gonna be miserable again, you know?
Yeah.
I guess it's a lot about what we're saying. It's a lot about the journey. You have your goal, and you're doing your best to get there, but don't forget to live in the meanwhile, you know.
So money are not important. Actually,
yes, they are, but not the most important.
You need to always be careful how you put that phrase, in which context.
No, they're really not, really.
I tend to agree with you, meaning that, you know, there were times when I was making less money that I was happier than some other times when I was making more money. But then I also realized that if I want to do certain things, I need to have more money. And so, you know, it's a cat that bites its own tail. Anyway, guys, believe it or not, we've been talking for more than an hour.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to stop the interview right here. I want to thank you so much for taking the time for talking to me. If people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
On the website and social media, Facebook, Instagram.
Leadson Viz.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave the links into the description so that people can find you. Guys, I'm going to stop the recording. Don't go anywhere. Thanks a lot for taking the time. I want to say thank you again in a few seconds, okay? Thank you so much for doing this.
Bye-bye.
Bye.